G'day all, it's Colin from PCTLC and thanks for joining me. We are in the desktop of Regolith Linux and it's been a bit of a struggle this week trying to work out how Regolith Linux works. So I've spent a bit of time getting to know it, so I haven't really had time to be making many videos this week. So let's have a look what we've achieved so far. So if I go all over the place, just forgive me. I'm just still trying to work out how all this works. So Regolith Linux, now it's not on DistroWatch, so it has the SourceForge page. Regolith Linux, if we have a look here, is a polished, productivity-focused, Ubuntu-based Linux distribution. It brings together a trifecta of Ubuntu's ubiquity, i3 window manager's efficient and productive interface, and GNOME's system configuration features. So that's what Regolith Linux is all about, and it's based on Ubuntu 1904, which is the one I downloaded, 1904, so that's the latest. So it's mainly 1904 by the looks of it. If there's an 1804, leave a comment below. I'm not really sure. I just went for the 1904 myself. So Regolith Linux, tiling window manager, or I think you would call it. Now I had a bit of an idea about how these work because I've seen Derek from DistroTube, some of his videos on tiling window managers, and he's a big user of those, and I've watched some of his videos. So I had some sort of idea on how it works coming into this. But when you're using it, it's not as easy as what it first looks. So let's go Control H to open the hidden files and folders. Now, when I first started using this, I didn't do a lot of reading, which is typical me. I just dived straight in and thought, yeah, I've sort of got this. But I went into this i3 Regolith and there was a config there, and I opened that. And there I was doing a few searches, looking at some of the, I'm not sure what you call this, binding symlinks. Is it binsim or bindsim? I'm not really sure how you pronounce that, but that's one of the commands to get some of these keyboard shortcuts going. But I changed a few things in here, and no matter what I did, it didn't work. And it was just still running with the out-of-the-box keyboard shortcuts for Regolith. And then I found out this. So let's have a look at this. If we go to the Regolith site, if we go down here to Troubleshooting, and we'll open this in a new tab, Troubleshooting. And this is what I discovered. Lost configuration changes. So when you update, if you've just updated Regolith and have lost any customizations to i3, Rofi, i3 bar, Conky, and all that, this is due to a new versioning scheme. So initially, config files were copied from a common location into your user directory upon new session creation. However, some recent backwards incompatible changes to support easier theming were introduced. To address this and to be more consistent with where Linux expects config files to be, they have moved to EzeeLinux. So to make modifications, copy the file you wish to modify to your user directory first. Here are the steps to copy default configurations to your user directory, where you can make edits, which is what I did. Copied these two commands in there, and it's in .config Regolith i3. So let's go back to that and have a look. So we'll close this one. You can close it from up here, or you can Control Q, and that closes that. So if we go back, because currently I'm in i3-Regolith. So if we go back, we're looking for Regolith i3 and there's the config. So this is the one I've been adjusting, and that's been working very well. So I thought I would get my hands dirty and try a couple of my own keyboard shortcuts. So what I've done, and I'm just trying to find them here. I'm busy talking and can't do things when I talk. So this one here, open simple screen recorder. So what I've done there is I've opened it with mod 1, and it tells you up here that mod 1, the alt key is mod 1. So I thought there's enough super key shortcuts there, or keyboard shortcuts using the super key. So I figured I'll try the alt key instead, which is mod 1. So there it is there, mod 1 plus S. So that means I enter the alt and S combination. And I've asked it to go to Workspace 5 and then execute simple screen recorder. So when I hit Alt S, simple screen recorder opens up in Workspace 5. So to get there, I just press the super key and the number 5 combination. And that's how I get to that screen there. So when I press the Alt S, that's what happens. So I'm going to go back to Workspace 2, so super key 2. That's where I was. And if we have a look down here, I've also got Nautilus to open as well. So open Nautilus files and binsim, I'm not sure. I'm going to binsim, I think that sounds better, binsim, so I'm just going to call it that. Mod 1, which is the alt key again, and the F key, execute Nautilus. And that just opens it up, whatever workspace I'm on. So if we go back to, well actually I'm on Workspace 2, so if I close my Nautilus file, so if I put it into focus and hit Control Q, that'll get rid of that. Now if I hit Alt and F, that opens up my Nautilus file. So if I wanted to move that back to the left, if I hold down the super key and hit the left arrow, or maybe the right, that changes the window focus. Holding the super key and arrowing changes the window focus. So if I want to focus a window, I can hold the super key and arrow left and right to focus a window. If I want to move a particular window, I hold the super key, the shift key, left arrow or right arrow, and that'll move the window accordingly. So let's go back to Workspace 1, super number 1, and let's have a look at Regolith Linux. Here's a distro for people that prefer a Spartan interface with polished and consistent system management. It brings together a trifecta. Yes, I've already read that. So it's got all these things here. Now, what I want to show you is if I hit, let's go to a clean workspace, number 3. So that's super 3, I just key combination. Now, if I hit the super and the space bar, then we get this application run bar, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not quite sure what it's called, but it's the super space bar, and then you can search for your applications. So if we tried Firefox, and then what happens is if you actually use something, it ends up on top of the list. So this list is governed by what was open previous. So if I open software, for example, and if I Control Q and close that, and super and space bar, well actually it didn't move up the list, did it? So it's making a liar out of me. I'm not sure why that is. That's a weird one. Let's try another one. Disks. Oh, text editor. That's open text editor. Blah, 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 blah. I think I'll close it. Control Q. Close without saving. Super space bar. No, it's not doing it. So I thought it was. It seemed to have been going that way, but Maybe that's just the way it worked out. Super spacebar. Oh, actually, if we hit escape, I think that'll get rid of that. Yep, escape. So if we go to, say, Workspace 2 again, and we open, say, the terminal, which is super and enter, and there's our terminal. The terminal here is, this one here is a little bit funny because it doesn't have a window border around it. You can't control Q or super shift Q. Oh yes, sorry, super shift Q actually. Super and enter to open it again. So super shift and Q will close it, that's right. Or you can type exit and that'll close it as well. So super enter. Now, if we want to full screen that, we can go super and F key, and that full screens that. And I think escape will probably get us out of that. Super F gets us, so it's the same key combination. Super F to full screen and super F to drop it back down again. Super and arrow to focus the window. Super F, I can full screen that. Now, if you hit the super key and the tab key, that will go to your next workspace. So it's going from 1 to 2 to 5. So they're the only open workspaces currently. So that's super tab. And if I want to move the active window to another workspace, if I wanted to move this Firefox to another workspace, I can go super shift and number 3, and then you'll see that the workspace number 1 is empty. So if I open, say, the terminal, so super and enter, and then I go to workspace 3, there's Firefox on workspace 3. So that was super shift and the workspace you want to move it to. So if we move it to where Simple Screen Recorder is, super shift and 5, now it'll be sharing with Simple Screen Recorder. So if I hit super 5, there they are together. So super and focus the window, and then I'll go super shift 1 to move Firefox back to workspace 1. And if I focus super left key and control super shift and Q to close that. Now if I go to super 3, if I want to open another terminal, super spacebar terminal is there, and that terminal is different to the one that opens with the super and enter. This terminal is the system must be a GNOME terminal, I think, whereas the other one must be part of the window manager, I think, because it doesn't have the title bar on top. So this one you can actually close with your mouse up in the top corner, like so. So if we open that again, let's go down to terminal. Now if we go to workspace 4 and we open another workspace and we open Software Center. Now I'm not sure if there was an actual shortcut for the Software Center, but we'll go super and spacebar and we'll go to software. And you got your software there, and you can probably install some software. Now, what I might do is actually install Zoom if I can on this and try running this on the BigDaddyLinux live this weekend. That could be very interesting. I could end up anywhere. We'll see how that goes. Now, there is a super and R. If you hold the super R, that's resize mode. You can see that down the bottom there next to the workspace 5 on the right, resize mode. What that does is if you press the arrow keys, you can resize. Now, I think you need another window open for that. So if we press super and R again, deactivates the resize mode. So if I open something else here next to that, sorry, wrong one. Alt and F for files. Probably because files is already open. It doesn't. It's told me it's on workspace 1. So let's close files here. Control Q. Go back to workspace. Where were we? 3, 4. Workspace 4. Alt F. So if I had that open another workspace, it wouldn't open again here. That's interesting. May have to use the Alt and spacebar, that might open there. Let's try going back to Workspace 3, Alt spacebar, and see if files will open there. So it does with that, but it didn't open with the key command, which is interesting. So number 4. So if I want to resize a window, Super and R, I don't know which one was in focus, probably the files one. Oh no, it's the, yes, it's the files one. So I'm hitting the right arrow at the moment, which takes it left, and if I hit the left arrow, it goes right. Just doesn't really matter which one really. It just resizes whichever window you want to resize. So, and you can see we're in the resize mode, and we did hit the Super and R key, and that's how you can resize windows. There is a floating mode, Super Shift F. I don't know what that does, floating mode. Didn't do much for that except for Super Shift F. Oh, there we go. What does that do? I don't really know what that does. Probably nothing. I think we need one of the system ones. If we go back to, I'm not sure what happened there. Battery's low. Just give me a minute. All right, battery was low. Super 2, no. So I can't do any keyboard commands at the moment. I'm not sure what I've done there. So if we Super Shift F, Super 2, no. I'll need to escape, I think. I might be in floating mode. Oh, there was something down the bottom there I didn't see. Now we're in floating mode, are we? Oh, now it can float. Right. So if I go Super 1, I don't know what I was stuck in there. I couldn't get out of that. Super 4. So that's in floating mode. If I press escape, I'm not sure if that works, or do we need to Super Shift F again? So that takes away floating mode. I don't know what I did before. I couldn't change to a different workspace. Now I can. So on the Regolith website, and I'll open these in new tabs, which is easier. We'll go back to the website. They do have some key bindings there that you can work with. So they've got the key bindings there as well. They've got some news. So there's a few things there. So far, that's where I've got with Regolith Linux. If you want to switch workspaces, you can Super Tab. And that's just say you wanted to go back to that workspace. You can Super Shift Tab, and that'll go back. So Super Tab to go forward, Super Shift Tab to go back. So I find working with Regolith Linux or i3, I'm a bit confused about it in the fact that you can sort of half use keyboard key bindings, and you can also use your mouse. So I think you've got to use your mouse anyway, I think, unless it opens up in these things here. I'm not quite sure whether it does or not, but if we go to, let's see, if I start typing here, it doesn't do anything, does it? No. So I've got to use my mouse to move around there. So I think for me, it's ingrained in my brain that I use the mouse to do a lot of things. But what this has done has showed me that working with workspaces can be very handy. And I tend not to work with workspaces. Sometimes I do in the GNOME desktop because it's Control, Alt, and arrow up and down to workspace. So I find that quite easy to do, and I've done that a few times on previous videos. But these key bindings are quite simple. It's Super and 1, Super and 2. I would have to say right up to 9 gets you a workspace. I find it easier to have different things on different workspaces, and that way it's not as confusing. So if I focus that window there, Control Q to close the files, because I've already got files open on Workspace 4, is it? Or thought I had files open anyway. 3. That's the terminal. Workspace 4 is a terminal. So Control, that's Alt and F to open my files, and then focus that window, Control Q. Super Shift Q for that one. So we've got Firefox on Workspace 1, the terminal on Workspace 2, but not the GNOME terminal, it's something else. Super 3 is my files, Super 4 is the software currently, and Super 5 is my simple screen recorder. So I find that quite easy to use, but to start with, it was total confusion. It seriously was. But I've sort of worked at it and found that it is quite easy to use once you get used to it, but I just find it hard to remember what I've got on what workspace, the key bindings. Now, don't be under any illusions. If you think I'm remembering all this, I've got it all written down in front of me. So I'm no expert and I'm not remembering all this quite easy. I do have to look at these notes here to remember all this. I'm not going to pretend that I'm some expert in i3 already. It's almost impossible. I can't remember all those, to be honest. It'd be quite difficult for me to do so. But I think I could, if this was the only workspace or sort of like desktop available, yeah, I could work with it, no problem. And I think it comes down to the fact that when you start a new job, you have to get to know things and how things work within the company structure and the people around you. This is no different. And, you know, you go to the job every day, you're going to get to know how things work because you're doing it every day. So if I was in here every day, I have no doubt that I would get to know all the key bindings off the top of my head because I'd be using it every day. But quite honestly, I don't think, because there's other choices, I prefer to use mostly the mouse and click on things. That's the way I prefer to use it. But I can see people who are sort of like more keyboard orientated, this would be not bad. But, you know, a lot of people saying a normal i3 experience instead of having it all mixed is probably better. But some people might like this one. That's probably why I can get into this a little bit because of that reason. It's got the mixture, and it's and what they say, it's more like an entry level i3 for people like myself. I can see that. I've sort of learnt to sort of cope with it this week. You just need to give it time. So just touching on the config file again, these are all the things. If you don't know what's what, it sort of tells you pretty much on top. It's got a comment, which is how I did mine. You know, open simple screen recorder with a hashtag in front, which uncomments that, so that's not going to be taken as anything in the file itself. It's just a comment. And it's only seen as that, and you can see here, reload the configuration file, restart i3, which is the Super, Shift and R. So if you make any modifications to this file here, once you do that, you have to press Super, Shift and R, and that restarts it, and you'll find that your key binding should be working. And if there is an error, it will definitely tell you that something has already taken that. You have to go back in and have a look what's taken it, and if you're not sure, you can just do, I did a Control F and do a search. So if I did a search for say mod S, mod plus S, you can see them all there. So if I wanted to see if anything's using Alt plus G, you'll see there that that's still red. There's nothing coming up here. It's not taken. So that's a good way of finding out whether anything is taken with the key bindings you want to use. I used the Control F function, which is a find function, Control F, and that's a really good way of checking out how this all works in here. So it's very handy to check what's being used. Just close that one. Control Q, Workspace 1, Super 1. I'll leave a link to the website here for Regolith Linux. And if we if we have a look at the terminal here and lsb_release -a, I think it is that. I didn't type it properly, did I? Gee, lsb. Let me try that again. -a and Ubuntu 1904 Disco. You got the software center there, which is there. You've also got .deb files for Zoom or a Snap. I'll have to add Flatpaks to this. I'll probably add the Flatpak into it and use the Zoom Flatpak for this week's Big Daddy Linux Live. So that is Regolith Linux. If you are thinking about trying a tiling window manager, I think you would call it i3, or an i3 base with a mixture of systems and so forth, this might be a good start for somebody who wants to dive into it a little bit and see if it's for you or not. This would be a very good start. One thing I haven't looked at here is I've been so busy trying to set it up that I noticed that there's tweaks available in here. I haven't done anything with theming whatsoever. I'm pretty sure I haven't touched that. Got Yaru in there as well. So yeah, it's definitely got tweaks out of the box, which is good. So Super 6 will open another workspace. We'll just have a quick look at the Super spacebar and just scroll through these. We've got tweaks out of the box. So I think it's out of the box. I don't think I installed that. I'm not 100% sure about that now, but it's got tweaks in there. And we can do an appearance, and it's got some so I have put Quokka in there. I didn't realize that, so I have done that, so I can use the Quokka theme. So I must have downloaded that and I've forgotten that I've done it. So if I go back to where's my file manager, there it is there. So there's the Quokka theme. So if I want to float that window, floating windows, Super, Shift and F. So there's a floating window. So just to give you a look at that. So it doesn't, double click doesn't do anything, and you cannot drag it up there because there's no window resizing on this, on the edges of the screen. So there's no screen edge resizing. So Control, Shift and F again, and that makes it full screen again. Back to Workspace 6, Super 6. In the appearance, they've got the icons, arc. They've also got Yaru, which is probably not a bad icon. Control Q to quit that. Super Shift Q. There we go. Some of them are Super Shift Q. Some of them are Control Q. I think Super Shift may work for everything. So let's just have a quick look. Super and Spacebar. So I'll just scroll down here. We've got GNOME Disk, Software Updater, Remote Desktop Reminer, Cheese, Live Patch, Disk Usage Analyzer, Mines, it's a game, Power Statistics, Rhythm Box, Simple Scan, Settings, Compton, Help, To Do, that's the GNOME To Do, Advanced Network. So we'll just scroll down, Thunderbird Mail, Shotwell, LibreOffice Writer, Startup Applications, Videos, LibreOffice Draw, Calendar, Archive. So it's got Writer, Draw and Impress, LibreOffice Calc. I messed that one up, I think. LibreOffice Calc, Regolith Terminal. So that's the terminal I think that wouldn't have the title bar up top, is the Regolith Terminal. Fonts, input method, LibreOffice Impress, i3, GNOME Flashback, Simple Screen Recorder I installed, Image Viewer, Transmission, Mahjong, Document Viewer. So it's got quite a few things there, and we're back to the start. So calculator, characters. So Super 1, we go back to number 1. Well, actually, what have I done with, there it is there, Super 1. So Regolith Linux, bit of a mixture of using the mouse, key bindings, and so forth. For me, I much prefer to use the mouse myself. But if you are into or thinking about an alternative desktop, and i3 is one of them, this may be a good start for you to get your hands dirty in this. They've got some simple key bindings available in here that you can mess around with, a config file as well. You may be able to use Regolith Linux to find out whether you like using i3 or not, and you still got that touch of a normal system, so to speak. One last thing before I finish this up is I definitely haven't touched the bottom bar yet. Haven't messed around with that. I haven't even looked into that yet, so I'm not 100% sure about that. So that was Regolith Linux. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting and informative, and thanks for watching.